that I actually like did some research. I watched the show a little bit, or what I could find online, which was like snippets, or here's the opening, or here's some art. And I fell in love with her the moment I saw her. I was like, I need to hear that character. So I searched on YouTube so I could hear any clip of the Seiyu. And I finally found one and I was like, yes, that is the role I will play. And sometimes that works out in your favor, sometimes it doesn't. Luckily, I was so obsessed with playing that one character that when I went into audition, I didn't even know her name. But Colleen was like, do you want to audition for CL? Do you want to audition for this? And I was like, the maid. The maid, the maid, the maid. And she's like, all right, fine, audition for the maid. And because I had heard her, I was able to do, at first we didn't know if we were doing accents, so it was just this voice all by itself. And then after a while, she's like, hey, do you think you can do an English accent? And I'm like, well, she's a servant, so would it be okay if I did like a Cockney accent just to make it? She's like, well, go ahead and try, whatever. So I started talking like this, yes I did. I was like, oh, and everything was big. I decided to take what the Seiyu had done and then like push it one step further. Because that's what I tend to do. I'm like, oh, okay, that was really awesome. What would happen if she was just a little crazier? So I pushed it just a step further, and I had so much fun with Mey Rin because Ian, who ended up being the director, would let me just do whatever I wanted. Like, I would do my line, but especially like in the background and stuff, like when the servants are running or playing. One of my favorite things I ever did, and he still talks about it to this day, is there was a scene where in one of the early episodes where Mey Rin's running. And of course, as an actor, it's your job to make it your character. So everybody else is like, but it's Mey Rin and she's klutzy and things happen. So she wasn't even on screen, but I was like, oh goodness, nobody saw that. Okay, we're good. I almost fell again. Oh. And Ian was on the floor rolling. He's like, what are you? You're having a conversation with yourself. I'm like, that's what she would do. And he goes, I love you. So from that point on, he just kind of let me go. Like whenever if she was on screen and talking, and then all of a sudden she'd be off screen and be like, I'm going to go in the other room and check on Vinny. And just making crazy noises and whatever. So I really love when the directors let us play. And so Mey Rin was one of the first times where I literally was just allowed to go wild. And then also at I'm not going to spoil anything, but there is a transition, shall we say? And with the transition, I was like, hey, what if we did this thing? Because the Japanese did it slightly. I was like, what if we took it one step further and even changed the dialect and changed the voice completely? And he's like, try it. And I did, and there's one period where she actually goes between two voices while putting on some glasses, and he's like, do you think you're going to be able to do that? And I'm like, I don't know, let's try it. And sure enough, I did it. And he goes, that was the coolest thing ever. And it even surprised me because I didn't know I was able to do stuff like that. So sometimes you surprise yourself when you get in there. But it takes a director that trusts you and lets you do stuff like that, and that's when you find out what you're really capable of. Da-da-da. I love that show. So much fun. Also, I was telling some people earlier, but Shudokan in Lansing, Michigan in April is doing a Black Butler reunion. So me and Ian, who plays Bard, and Jason Liebrecht, who plays Finney, and J. Michael Tatum, who's Sebastian, and Brina, who plays Ciel, and Daniel Frederick, who plays Grell, who's never been to a convention before, ever. And Lydia Mackey, I don't know who she plays, but a whole bunch of people are going to be at that convention, and I'm trying to talk everyone into cosplaying. Woo! Brina and I are gonna do it. I don't know if anybody else is. So Ciel and Mey Rin will be in cosplay. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm trying to work on it. I'm gonna make it happen. Especially with Tatum. I just want to see Tatum dressed as Sebastian. That would be so awesome.
Yeah. Well, actually.